Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast, and a very special welcome to a man sitting in a town. Do you call it a town or is it a city? Is Charleston a city?
I think it's a city. Yeah,
City.
it's a small city.
Small city, but there's a lot of people, a lot of famous people, such as Darius Rucker and Bill Murray, but they are not as famous as this man we're going to be introducing, which is Mr. Mark Gordon, all the way from Charleston, South Carolina. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
And we're saying just before we press record that there are some famous people, and they actually come up to you for a photograph because of all the great work you've been doing globally. Is that right?
Yes, I think you were the one saying that, but I will happy to go with it. Yes, when I see Darius Rucker in town, I get the biggest hugs. No, very. It's a small town. We do run into those people all the time, and it's a small community. But we are certainly privileged to have such wonderful, famous people choose Charleston here as their home.
It is. I'm told that it's a wonderful place. So we're not going to talk about country western music or country music or acting. We are going to talk about sales and sales leadership because Mark, you're the founder and chief executive officer of Integrated Go-to-Market Solutions, and we're going to talk about messaging, go-to-market, why VP of sales often fail, why companies don't necessarily put their messaging out and they think, well, we've got this fantastic product and everyone's just going to flock to us. So we'll get into all of that. But before we do, love to learn a little bit about you for our listeners' benefit in terms of I guess, the backstory to Mark D. Gordon. Not so much where you grew up, but what led you into sales, and particularly the work that you're doing now, leading the integrated go-to-market solutions business.
Yeah, well, I think I started off in sales the same way that lots of people do, which is I was a really bad student. And so I did make it through college, but barely by the skin of my teeth. And I really enjoyed the learning part, but not so much the doing what I was told part. And so when I graduated, I came home, and my dad, who was an accountant and did not have a similar personality to me in some of those ways, said, I have some clients that are like you, and they do really well in sales. You should go into sales. And at the time, I didn't even know sales was a job. Honestly, it never even really occurred to me. But I put a resume together, and I put my resume on monster.com, which was the place to put it at the time a million years ago. And I got a bunch of phone calls for entry level sales jobs. And I took a job in insurance. And I did pretty well. There was like 22 guys in my office. I was like the number 3 or number 4 guy, but I never believed in my product. I had a really hard time like relating to as a 22-year-old selling life insurance or Medicare supplements to senior citizens. It was just like not the right thing for me. And
Mm.
so, but I had enough track record then to like go really interview for sales jobs. So about a year later, I took a job in the mortgage industry, and this was 2005, so it's pre-crisis. And I took to that like a fish takes to water. It was great. People were applying online. We were calling them up and selling them refinances or purchase mortgages. And it was great for me because mortgages is the ultimate commodity industry, especially in the United States. Everything is kind of government controlled. So, for anybody who doesn't know, we have 30-year fixed mortgage rates here, but they are all backed by the federal government, 2 organizations called Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And then they have like FHA, a bunch of different programs. I won't bore you with details, but every company, all couple thousand mortgage companies, are selling the exact same products to the exact same people with the exact same pricing. And so the only thing you have as a company is sales and marketing. You are a sales and marketing organization because there is no product differentiation. There's no way to do that. And so I started as a salesperson, then as a sales manager, and I did finish number 1 in both of those things. And then 2008 hit, my company went out of business, and the world ended, right? So I had a couple different choices, but me and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife and the mother of my children, and a buddy of mine, we started our own kind of branch of a mortgage company, did well with that. And then that company in 2011 went out of business. It was kind of just, it was like, just we were the number 1 branch of 300 branches as the company was falling apart. So at that point, I went out and raised a couple million bucks, started my own mortgage company from scratch. And I did that for about 6 years, built that up to about 8 figures in annual revenue. And then I realized I didn't know what I was doing as a CEO. I was a sales leader pretending to be a CEO. And so I sold that company and sold it to the person that paid the most instead of the person that was the right person to sell to. And that was another painful lesson. But then stayed on the year that I had to through that transition. That was a pretty miserable year. And then I said, okay, I'm going to move from New Jersey to Charleston, South Carolina, sell some mortgages and have an easier life. That was the plan.
Yep.
This guy found me. His name was Rich Wydell. He was taking over a family-owned mortgage company that was kind of dormant. They didn't have any business, but they did have some capital. He said, "I want to build a national lender." He said, "Come be my head of sales." So um, we went on that journey, and we went from 3 million a month to over $100 million a month in loans, 85,000, top rated, fastest growing companies, all the different things. And then COVID hit, and that was amazing because rates went down, and so we made a ton of money. And then when COVID went away, it got really boring. As a leader in the mortgage industry right now, when rates are high, you're literally just cutting costs and waiting for the smoke to clear. And I was just started in my 40s. I was like, these are my prime earning years. I'm a builder. I got to get out of here. Like, I love you guys. If it gets good again, I'll come back, but like, I'm going to go do something else. Spent about 18 months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And over that time period, I started helping my friends and family build businesses. And then I started helping their friends and family build businesses. And I was like, I think there's something here. And then I ended up in a tech situation where I was helping a software company, and that exposed me to a bunch of software companies. And I realized those were not sales organizations. And all the things I had taken for granted in the mortgage industry, where you had to be amazing at marketing sales because there was no product differentiation. As soon as you gave somebody product differentiation, they really struggled with their go to market from my perspective. And so I found this huge opportunity in the marketplace and started integrated go to market solutions because I just saw an opportunity to help a lot of companies take their what I thought were really great products or services and get them out into the marketplace. But I knew they were going to need help to do it because no matter how great your product is, if you don't know how to tell people it's great, or you don't know when to tell them it's great, or who to tell it's great, and you certainly know how to convert that to revenue once those people are in the door, it doesn't matter. And so I'm now I love building companies. I love helping people. I now get to do both of those things together, and that's kind of how I ended up here.
Wow. That's a pretty interesting but high-powered resume.
Yeah, we've had some fun. I love I one of my big failures in my career actually is like I've done no networking because once I'm in a company, all I do is obsess about my team, the people in the company, and how I can create an environment where motivated people can thrive. And so I become very internally focused. And I spend a lot of time at the computer or in my call centers or wherever I was doing, really trying to make sure that I'm building the best company possible. But that's what I love. I love pouring into people. You know, when I took that job at Princeton with that guy Rich, who was, by the way, younger than me and smarter than me, and had learned it all in school from reading books, and he taught me so much because I had learned it all through the School of Hard Knocks, and
Yeah.
he had learned it all through business school at Cornell. And so it was an amazing meld. Um, but the my desire to he asked me he goes what do you want people to say about you at your funeral? He asked me in the interview. Such a smart guy. And I never thought about it before, but I instantly knew the answer. That was I wanted there to be a lot of people there who said I helped them get to where they want to go. And so since I said that out loud at that moment, that became like a very central driving force in my life over the last 7 or 8 years. And the fact I would have been a teacher if teachers made more money. I love teaching. I love it. I love coaching. I love helping people get to where they want to go. So this is just such a great fit for me because I get to take all the painful lessons I've learned through all my millions of dollars of mistakes and save people from those mistakes now.
Well, as you're talking there, Mark, I'm hearing the words of Zig Ziglar, where he talks about you just help enough people get what they want, and you'll have everything you want in life.
It, you know, I, I've always been intrinsically wired that way. I was the guy who, as soon as, I played sports, but I always liked coaching them as much as I liked playing them. And I was always coaching the younger kids. Like, I just love that part. I love people, and if you'll talk about the vanity of it or what really is, like, I love people looking up to me. I love people thinking that I'm doing a good job or that I know things. There's some vanity in that. Um, but for me, it manifests itself in a really healthy way, which is just like there's no better. Like when I win the sales award or when I was the number one sales guy, that felt great. When I helped somebody else become the number one salesperson, oh man, that was like next level. And it still is. And now, I thank God for LinkedIn and social media. I've trained hundreds of salespeople, right? And I get to stay connected with those people and I get to see all of their wins. And not a week goes by where somebody reaches out to me and goes, I gotta tell you. It's been 9 years since you went through your thing, but I'm winning at my job right now because of all those lessons that you gave us along the way there. Like that is just, that's what you live for, right? And again, you're right. If you have enough people in the world who feel that way about you, then success finds you, opportunities find you, and more importantly, the meaning of life is about relationships, right? And so
It
you get
is.
to have that fulfillment.
It
I'm
is.
sorry, I know I'm over talking. You got me fired up. It's nine
No,
o'clock at night here. So.
no, not at all, mate. Not at all. This is the podcast, but it's a highlighting the guest, right? So this is your platform. As you're talking there, though, Mark, it's like I always talk to sales leaders and to sales teams and say to them that sales at its core is yes, it's problem solving, but it's also the ultimate form of service. So if you look at the legacy of the word sales, it comes from to serve or to help. So the fact that you mentioned earlier that you haven't done a lot of networking, and yet you've built an eight figure mortgage business that you've now sold, and you now got a business that's doing very well in the go to market, the messaging. So can you talk to me a little bit about the philosophy? Because you just mentioned before you've always been, I guess, and the word wasn't manic, but inwardly focused on helping the team become exceptional, or the people become exceptional, and through that, excellence is the outcome. If you look back on your career and the success you've had, what is it that you've been able to do that has meant that people have come to you and you haven't necessarily had to quote unquote network?
Well, that's a great question. And by the way, I'll just explain. Well, I'll walk you through it this way because it's evolved.
Yeah,
When I had my own company at Fortran, to my own detriment, it was in my head as a 29-year-old CEO and founder who raised money to build a company. In a very faulty way, in my head, it meant more to me to be named the best place to work on Glassdoor than it did that we made money.
yeah,
And you think that like, okay, if I really like service was so important to me that like almost in spite of profit, that it actually made me less good at my job, made my company a less good place to work for because first of all, the scoreboard is making money, right? If you don't make money as a company, then like it's easy to have employees that love you and customers that love you if you're willing to give everything away and not make money, right? And so I hadn't thought of it that way at the time, but that's kind of how I think about it now. He said, well, how did I attract these people? Well, the short answer is I always put in any conversation where it's net neutral, I put the other person's best interest over my own, or at least make sure I view it through their lens and their prism to make sure I understand their perspective and where they're coming from. My major in college was psychology. I find human
okay,
beings so interesting. I love figuring out what makes an individual person tick, and I believe in managing, coaching, leading each individual person in the way that that person needs to be led to a point that it's not detrimental to the rest of the team, right? You have your core culture, you have, hey, here are the rules of the game. But within those rules of the game, which we follow very strictly, there's so much room for you to be the leader that this person needs versus that person needs, and to think about what's important to them and create an environment for that individual person to thrive in, right? And so I think I was just always very focused on that. And so when I would build teams, um, I would say that I was able to build really meaningful relationships with very different kinds of people. I, one of my wife will tell you, and some of my former, people who help me build companies will tell you, like, my greatest strength is I see the good in everybody. It's also a weakness, right? Like you can really sell yourself as a leader on like, oh, I can save that person, right? And I had to
yeah,
learn some really painful lessons around that because you can't. It's important not to try to rehabilitate people. But what drew people to me is that I gave people the benefit of the doubt. I didn't let a flaw here or a flaw there get in the way of how I felt about a person or maybe stop believing in somebody. And so even the ones who didn't work out, even where it turned out they weren't the right people for my organization at that time, we left in a really good place because I shared my thoughts with that person in a radically candid way. They were never blindsided by what was going on. We invested in them so that we tried to coach them. We tried to coach them up. We told them, hey, this is where you stand. Hey, by the way, here's what you need to do, or this is going to be a fit for you. And by the way, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or even a bad salesperson. It just means that this is not the right season for you to be in the seat. We want to set you up to thrive somewhere else. And so
yeah,
when you authentically enter a relationship that way, which is like, I care about this person. I hope we get to work together for a long time. But by the way, we're not a family. We're a professional sports team, right? That's how I look at business. It's like, families are forever, whether you do a good job or not. And we don't get to choose our family. You choose me, I choose you. We're a professional sports team. Both of us have an obligation to do our part at a high level so that we can win the game. And when you establish that relationship, but really you care more about winning than you do your own individual interests, about us winning as a team, people feel that and it's rare. And so when you behave that way every day, day in and day out, it's not an accident that people are attracted to that. And then people want to, reach out to you and share their new success. Like, hey, Mark, I just got this promotion. I just want to let you know. I'm like, congratulations, man. It's awesome. Like, you know, uh, but it really, people can feel that authenticity. And so, um, I'm very fortunate to be a sports guy, right? And so that's kind of how I came up, which is to be a team player and to learn how to work together with different kinds of people to get to the same goal. And those things transferred from the athletic field to the business world.
And when you think about it, because you mentioned you got a background in psychology as well, running a business at the end of the day, because I think you mentioned before there was a couple of times there where you're more interested in creating a great place to work than necessarily the revenue or the profitability of the business. How now, having gone through that process and now running another successful organization, how do you, I guess, balance the two by having like the care, the candor, the people in the right roles, but also keeping an eye on, hey, we need to make sure we continue to keep the fires burning of a profitable organization that creates the opportunity for people to continue to thrive.
Yeah. So again, I think it's an acknowledgement. So when I was building my mortgage company, this guy named Jeff Bezos was building a company named Amazon. And every quarter you would read about all the money that Amazon lost and how it didn't really matter because of XYZ.
Yeah.
And stupid non-business school psychology major Mark, who's a sales leader pretending to be a CEO, was like, cool, then profit's not that important. We want to grow, we want to build, we want to be a great place to work, we want to get customer acquisition. And so that's how I thought you're supposed to do it. Well, in the mortgage industry, you can't do that. First of all, there's liability that comes with the mortgage. If it goes bad, people stop paying. You can have fraud. There's all kinds of things that can happen that can come back to you. So if you don't run profitably, you run the risk of going out of business, right?
Mm,
But I didn't know that at the time. And then, as I said, like the game is those other things, you start reading these business books, you read like Jim Collins, and you're like, man, if everybody just loves working here and we set this big, hairy, audacious goal, like it'll all take care of itself. And like, I think those things are super important, but they don't provide all of the context or the realities of like, hey, the scoreboard matters. And uh, I used to go home those nights when I was at Fortran, my first company, and on Friday I would go home and not know how I was going to make payroll on Monday. And no matter how good a person you are, that creates a stress in everything
mm.
you do that actually holds everyone in the company back and everything back, and it actually prevents you from being able to do your best work. And so as I kind of reformulated that process now, it's very simply like, no, creating an environment where motivated people can thrive means building a healthy company. And so a healthy company means like how can you make slightly above average industry profits while also pulling off all that other stuff. And that's what makes you a great leader and a great business owner, right? Now, if you're not making money or you're below industry average, like cool, then you're almost like cheating the game, right? Like yes, if I'm overpaying all my employees or giving away my services, it's easy to get high customer service scores or high employee scores, which is kind of what I was doing
Mm.
the first time around. How can you build a system and a company that's capable of making above average industry profit and still having the highest employee satisfaction scores and still having the highest customer satisfaction scores and still having an amazing operating team? And so, and once you frame the game that way, and then you live in that environment, realize how much healthier it is because you can invest in research and development, you can invest in a new marketing thing, you can try different things without putting the company in jeopardy. You can handle a bad month without the stress of it affecting your ability to really lead. It's a much better way to go. And so, and because I live in a world of radical transparency, radical candor, and I was always willing to share with everybody where we were at, what was going on. Once I grew to know these things, it was very easy. And I'm a teacher by nature. It was very easy for me to teach my team the same thing, and then the light bulbs go off for them, and then all of a sudden we're all rowing in the same direction. And
Yeah.
so, as if once the team accepts, like, oh, yes, I want to get a raise, but in order to, I need to have a team of people being paid above average for exceptional work. That's the deal. The only way we build an amazing company is that. So, okay, If you want to get paid this much, are you doing exceptional work? That's the deal. If you want to be on this team, the agreement is you do exceptional work. And by the way, like if you don't want to do that, there's a lot of pressure. Dude, there's a lot of pressure. If you
Yeah.
don't like it, no harm, no foul, right? So, but now I get to say that during the interview process. So people self-select out. So you say, how did I make that transition? I did it because I was very honest about my growth on those things. Once I understood it, I was able to explain it to my team. And actually, I read an amazing book called The Great Game of Business. And it was recommended to me by the same guy that I worked for at Princeton. And that really clarified it for me, which is like, oh, like if you tell everybody what the game is, uh, and the people who want to play your game will self-select into this thing, and then
Yeah.
that allows you to play whatever game you want to play. And so if our game is above average profits for the industry while doing all this other stuff, and then this is what it takes, and you create a clear vision, it all kind of comes together.
Love it. Love it. Love it. So with people listening to this, and there could be VPs of sales, there could be chief revenue officers, there could be salespeople wanting to do their own thing, there could be founders. Because the thing with the podcast is, you don't actually know who listens to it.
Hopefully, a lot of people, but that's it. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So you've built businesses from scratch, right? So I'm interested in like the framework because all the stuff you've talked about is essential ingredients because we want to be able to build a profitable, high-performing, highly engaged team and a business that hopefully becomes self-sustainable that provides not only sustainable success but a destination for people to thrive and be the best version of themselves, right? So what are some I guess, principles or steps that has enabled you to build from scratch that are tangible, that are practical? Because there'll be people that are saying, yeah, we've got a great product, but our culture is not where it needs to be. Or we've got great people, but we're being held back by the product because we're not marketing it well in the marketplace. You see what I mean?
So I do see what you mean. Uh, but one of like my core thoughts specifically around, do you want to clarify narrow your question for me just a little so that I don't go on another 10-minute rant here? So the question is, I think, and you can help me out with this. If you're giving advice to somebody who's about to start a business or you're in the beginning stages, how do you bring the culture together, or what is the blueprint for like the general success if you're going to go ahead and take that route? Which
Um,
way were you going with the question?
Well, I was gonna say, Mark, both. So I'll reframe the question, right? Because this is why I showed you the blank sheet of paper before we started, because that's my list of questions.
Well, yeah. Well, listen, you asked me like a three-part question, and that could mean I could talk for 7 hours straight. So
That's it. That's it. So
get it.
I'll simplify it and think, okay, we've got a VP of sales, we've got somebody that's in the early phases of a business. How do I create the framework for a successful business that enables me to be sustainably successful, having a great product, but also a great place to work?
So here's my real recommendation to people. This is gonna probably this is the moment that you can pull from this podcast. Uh, find a business that you think is doing a good job. And as you dig in a little bit, it feels authentically in line with how you want to run your business. And then steal everything and do everything you can to just imitate that business first. And I share that because the same thing I teach somebody when they learn sales, right? And if you come into my organization for sales, I'm going to teach you the sales script. If you choose to go your own route out of the gate, you will most likely fail. If you read the sales script forever, you will probably not be great. The ones who become great are the ones who master the sales script as it is and then make it their own. And if you skip that step, it's very messy and it's very hard to measure what works. And what works so well is if you master that sales script to start, when you change something, you can start to see, did that work or not work? And if it didn't work, you have the foundation of that sales script to go back to and try something different. If you never master the sales script to begin with, you never know what's working or what's not working or why it's working. You start to change things and measure things, something you have no foundation to come back to, and you just falls flat. It falls apart.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the same thing when you're starting to run a business. You are not the first person to be running your kind of business the way that you envision running it. There are lots of companies, depending on the vertical you're in, probably dozens, if not hundreds or thousands of very similar companies. And the more you can steal a playbook or as a foundation for a vision for where you want to go, or literally there's a book called Scaling Up. You can literally chapter by chapter build your company out of the book. People laugh at me like that's not how companies are built. I go, no, but maybe it's how your company should be built because you can skip a lot of steps. And it doesn't mean at the end of the day, 10 years from now, you're going to look back at that book and go, we're doing everything in the book the way it says in the book. But it's a really great place to start
Yeah.
because and so when I built my first mortgage company, I built it exactly like the one that I had worked at before. And then when I built all of the stuff they had done as well as they built it, I started to change it, iterate it, make it my own, make it better, and tweak it from there. Right.
Yeah.
As right now, I'm building integrated go-to-market solutions. There's not a ton of go-to-market consulting companies out there, but there's a million coaching businesses and there's a million consulting businesses and there's a million chief revenue officers out there. And if I go and study the people that where I authentically relate to them and how they built their businesses, and I steal the best parts of that, master their lead generation process, their sales process, their execution process, and then once I know all that, now I can continue to iterate on it and make it mine. But if I try to reinvent the wheel from scratch, I'll spend years like
Yeah.
just spinning my wheels, or I have to get so lucky, right? Like, or you have to be a genius. And I'm not a genius and I'm not going to get lucky. It's not really my thing. I'm lucky my kids are healthy. My wife is amazing. I got very lucky, but business, I don't think I'm that lucky. I think 50-50, sometimes no, not good or bad. It just is. And so with those things in mind, it's, hey, I got to build a foundation based on what other people have already done, and then I can go make it mine. I think if you skip that part, I think it's very painful and it's very hard to get started. It's why most businesses never get to even what I would call, I have 5 levels of everything in my head. Most businesses just stay at level one, which is a
Mm.
founder, maybe with an assistant, trying to sell their thing, and they never get it off the ground. And then you get to level two, which is like, hey, we have a team, but it's still really founder led and I'm doing everything. And then at level three, it's okay, I'm a leader, I have 10 helpers, I'm delegating, and we have real revenue and I can go on vacation and still make money. And then level four and level five, we can kind of talk about as being different. But like people ask me, like, what's the difference between a level two CEO and a level three CEO? And I'm like, everything. Like you have to be a completely different human being at each step there, right? So if you don't steal somebody else's playbook, it's a long road. So my best advice would be, hey, go study the people in your space and how they're doing it. And by the way, with their between their website and what you can pull from AI and what you can pull from their LinkedIn profile and what you can pull from their wife's Instagram, you can get a really good feel for how somebody else is building their thing right now, right? Like you can actually get AI to be like, if I was building this company, how would you do it? Like follow those steps. And then once you've got that going, you'll probably have a minimum viable product with a minimally viable business. And then you can start playing around and trying to figure out how you can iterate to make it better.
It's a great piece of advice, and the key theme there is, and I've written it down, is modeling excellence, right? So from a psychology point of view, and I've done a lot of coaching training and all the NLP stuff, and it's around modeling. What are the strategies that people use in order to do the things they do? Some of them work, some of them don't, but as you said rightly, you don't want to be reinventing the wheel because that's just going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time that you don't necessarily have to invest versus look at the organizations that are doing things well, look at the leaders that are doing things well within those organizations and figure out or ask them how they do what they do. But even more importantly than that, I'd be saying ask them what their thinking process is behind what they do so you can understand why they do what they do, not just what they do.
Exactly. And I I think one of the other things I say to people too is that everybody expects it to be quick hitting or success to come quickly. Most successful companies are built because one person had a long obedience in the same direction. Meaning it was like, we are going to build this company and we're going to get a little bit better at it every day. And like there are years where it seems bad or months where you don't know how you're going to make it. And then after 20 years, you're like, oh, we're doing 20 million a year in revenue because you kept kind of plugging away in that same direction with that same mindset. And so like you got to play the long game with some of this stuff. Now, yes, if you go out and raise $20 million, you need to blitz scale because it's a different model, right? So
Yeah.
if there's some kind of network effect in your product, whatever, there are different scenarios. But if you're starting a plumbing business or another IT services company in a commodity-based space, it is steal as much as you can, iterate slowly, don't quit. And if you can, and don't, and by the way, don't go broke. Don't go broke. Don't quit. Just stay alive, right? If you
Yep.
can stay alive and keep getting better every day. And by the way, you have to be interested in getting better. I see a lot of CEOs. They're at 4 million. Like, why am I stuck at 4 million? It's like you stopped trying to get better 10 years ago. Like, what have
Yep.
you gotten better at over the last 10 years? Like, if you're obsessing over, and if you realize that you are both the problem and the solution for wherever you are, right? If I'm stuck at 4 million, it's me. If I'm growing, it's me. If we're shrinking, it's me as the leader, right? You have to think about it that way. If you obsess about it that way, then you'll keep growing, getting better, and then just don't go out of business and don't quit. Don't go broke, don't quit. If you stay in the game, I see so many companies you just like. I'll give you an example. I interviewed at one point when I was on my journey to start an insurance company with a guy who made all of his money after 20 years reselling electricity in the United States. So we have like 20 states that have deregulated electricity, meaning that there's somebody else can go sell electricity. And they built a call center and they call companies in these states and they get to buy their electricity through them instead of another company. And
Yep.
they're clearing $8 million a year in profit, single owner company. And he's like, just plugging away. How'd you do it? It's like, well, a little bit every year, right? I know another guy, same thing. He built arcades for kids in bowling alleys. And they started with one and it made some money and not really. And now they have 20 through the southeast of the United States. It's like every month the guy's like, I made another $1 million this month. It's like it collecting he's got a bowling alley, right? Or and now a bunch of them. All business is like that. You don't have to have a great idea. You just have to be able to execute, never stop, never go out of business, keep getting better every day, and keep that long obedience in the same direction. Now I see every kid, 25 years old, trying to get rich in 6 months. They're literally right online, like, what business can I start to become a millionaire in the next 6 months and be able to spend 6 months a year in Costa Rica? I'm like, that's I know there's somebody on Instagram that did that and told you it was a thing, but it's not a thing for you, right? So like, or if you go in with that attitude, you're probably not going to get there. It's hard, it takes a lot of work, but if you want to build something great, that's kind of the plan.
It's got to be sustainable, doesn't it? And if you look at the organizations that have stuck around, and you mentioned Jeff Bezos before and Amazon and the amount of work that he had to put in years and years and years ago, and people thought he was absolutely crazy, but he stayed the course and he continued to iterate, continued to improve, continued to invest, and he's one of the richest men in the world.
And again, it was not a new space or a new idea. He decided to sell books online,
Yeah,
right? There's an awesome book called Delivering Happiness, which is about Zappos. It's
yeah.
Anthony Shea from Zappos. And literally, when he took over that company, they were like putting the shoes on. They were taking pictures of the shoes in a store, putting the pictures online, and then when somebody would buy them, they were running to the store to buy it and shipping it to them, like as low tech as you can get. And then it became that company, right? But like they didn't quit, they didn't go out of business, and they just kept getting better every day. And so you don't have to have people are just like, oh, I'm waiting for my big idea. Most of us never come up with our big idea. And by the way, our big idea, is another thing where you're trying to reinvent the wheel. Like that's not that might be how billionaires are created, but it's not how millionaires are created. And so millionaires are created by doing something a little bit better than most of the other companies sustainably and getting better at it over time. And so you just have to have the guts to fight through it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, Mark, I wanted to pick up on something you were talking about before in relation to when you're in the mortgage business. You mentioned that you had all these different companies selling exactly the same product at exactly the same rate, and there was no real differentiation from a product perspective. So it came down to the sales and the marketing, which is the go-to-market messaging. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because you've been in a business that is commodity based, but you've actually differentiated yourself to the point where you've been I don't know, let's just say a destination for people in that particular industry. Because we talked before we press record, also the big organizations, the big brands, they continue to advertise, they continue to build awareness in the marketplace to keep their product front of mind. Can you talk about like specifically messaging, and particularly if you've got people listening to this who are in a commodity industry, how do we start to think about differentiation, right? How do we start to make ourselves relevant to the point where people are intrigued about learning more about what we have to offer?
Yeah, and by the way, I think we live in a world where almost everything is a commodity-based industry now. So this applies to every, right? Especially in the world of AI, like even your product, it can be rebuilt, right? Like we are in the whole world, everything is a commodity, right? So, and that's why I tell every founder I meet, your go-to-market is your second product, and it's equally important to your actual product or service that you sell. So the differentiations come in many different shapes and sizes, right? So the first thing is you need to have a message that attracts really great people to come work with you. And so what does that mean? It means that you have to have a differentiation to attract high achieving people, um, and make it a place where they want to come to work and come to stay. So our messaging for that was very simple. Radical candor, radical transparency, come work with us. We're a professional sports team, not a family. And by the way, here we're going to invest in you. We're going to expect you to do the best work of your career. It's going to be incredibly rewarding. You're going to be paid really well for it. And by the way, you will leave here better than you, right? Like that was like a real thing. And so the people that wanted that came, right? Then we put that out to the marketplace, right? So in the mortgage industry, there's a couple different sales channels, but let's just say retail sales is you have loan officers who live in their communities. Their job is to go make friends with realtors and then have those realtors send them business, right?
Yeah.
Because the realtor gets the referral, right? And so, well, why do realtors refer customers? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First one is if they refer their mortgage person, they feel like they have more control over the process. There's less that can go wrong. And so in their heads. But then as a loan officer, you have to be able to deliver that, meaning that you have to be able to do the work up front to make sure that when you say this loan is going to close on this date, that loan closes on this date. So we had to make sure that we held ourselves accountable. So the first thing we did when I got to Princeton was we offered something called the Princeton Promise, which is every borrower we offered $1,000 to multiple times through the process. All they had to do was click a button if it wasn't effortless. We said if this mortgage isn't effortless, click this button, we'll give you $1,000. And that did a couple different things for us. One is if you didn't like that, you didn't come work for us. You thought you were going to get in trouble, you didn't think you were going to do a good job, you went and worked in a company that didn't have that button. Awesome. Have a nice life. The second thing it did, when we made a mistake, we found out. That was really good news. One, we got to fix it. So you take a person who's irritated in their mortgage process, they press a button, the CEO or the head of sales calls them 5 minutes later and fixes their problem. They went from annoyed to impressed. And instead of going and writing a bad review at the end of the process, they're like, wow, this company's amazing. Usually they tell you to keep $1,000. I know it sounds crazy, but like they just want to be heard. They weren't getting service. Now they got it. And like, wow, this company's amazing. You literally flip somebody from angry to raving fan in that experience. So, three, if they do take the $1,000, they're now even less likely to go write a bad review. And by the way, you get to learn what you're screwing up as a company. Is it a people problem? Is it a process problem? Is it a technology problem? Well, now I'm in most companies, you don't find out there's a problem until people are literally ready to sue you,
Mm.
right? We were finding out as soon as it happened because we were incentivizing people to tell us. And they were literally getting an email 3 or 4 times the process. If it's not effortless, click this button. And so people get the email, they click the button, and all of a sudden we're finding out what we're doing wrong. So now we're going to be building a better mousetrap. We're building a better process because we're getting more information than our competitors about what our clients actually want. Okay, cool. So now if we've taken this commodity thing, we've found a way to hire better people. We found a way to hire people that want to be better because they're opting into this penalty system of this. We have them being able to go out to the realtors and say, hey, we're so confident that we're going to crush it for your borrower that if it's not awesome, we'll just give them $1,000, no questions asked. And it's like, well, that doesn't really matter. It's a $300,000 deal, but I love the fact you're willing to stand behind your product that way and say that, right? Gives you something to talk about as a loan officer when you go make the friends with realtors.
Yeah.
We actually do have less problems because of the things we've learned during that process and because we have a team that's accountable to it. And so the flywheel just starts to build on itself, right? We have less problems. When we do have problems, we learn about them, we fix the problems, we attract better people, we attract better realtors, we attract better clients. And it goes on and on and on. Suddenly, you're able to charge a little bit more than the market because people don't care if it's $5 a month more. What they care about is making sure they close on time 100% of the time. That you're going to answer the phone. That if there's a problem, somebody's going to fix it. And they start to be willing they change what they expect from their
Mm.
companies. And then when they use somebody else, they don't have those things. They go, well, why don't you have those things? And so you start to set a new standard in your marketplace, right? And so like what we did is we built, and what I still do when I work with the companies that I work with is how do we build all of these little mechanisms along the way that in this space that's a commodity, we make everything the customer experiences is a little bit better and a little bit different all on the way, so you get to better outcomes. And sometimes that means you get to a place where you can actually be cheaper, but most of the time it's not about that. And by the way, you make more money when you don't have to be cheap, right? So every company has to build a different mousetrap, right? And has to
Yeah.
be authentic to them and their culture, authentic to their leadership. Because if by the way, you force my system down a different leadership team's throat, everybody quits, doesn't work, right? So we go in, when we analyze this stuff, we have to figure out, okay, who are you guys? What can or can't you handle? And how do we build the systems in the mousetrap that build a flywheel that continue to make you better than your competition? And so that's like on the surface of it. And then, by the way, you build an internal messaging infrastructure that continuously tells everybody this is who we are, so they know what to live up to. So every time somebody hit that button and got a Princeton promise, we did an after action review, military style, of what happened, and we sent that out to the entire company.
Yep.
People would be like, "You're calling out Fred for Fred's mistake?" And it's like, no, I don't care that if Fred is unhappy that everybody knows he made a mistake. I care that we don't make the mistake again. And if Fred doesn't like it, Fred doesn't have to work here. And I know it's like a very weird way to say this stuff, but like this is, do you want to work in a company where we have A players and we do A work, or do you want in a company where we never hurt anyone's feelings?
Yep.
If you
Yep.
want the second thing, great. Let me help you find that
Yeah,
company. It's
that's
not
right.
this.
It's not here.
I will be, if that's what you want, you go find that company, list me as a reference, and I'll tell them you belong in that company, right? Like I will help you get that job. I mean it. But you can't work here because this team is based on, we want A players in every seat, we want exceptional work, and we accept all these other things that are going to be harder
Yeah.
in order to get to the wins that we have in the game. And by the way, I told you in the interview what you were signing up for, and now that you believe me because you've seen it, do you want to stay? Another thing we did at Princeton Mortgage, which I think was awesome, is that at 90 days we offered everybody $5,000 to quit.
To quit.
So to quit on day 90, you would get a letter that says, "Thank you so much for your first 90 days here. We really appreciate working here. We really hope that you'll stay." But if after you've seen exactly how crazy we are, you decide we're not the right crazy for you, we'd rather part ways as friends. Here's $5,000 for you to go on your way. And probably one out of 25 people would take it. And you know what? What happens in most companies is those employees hang on for 8 or 9 months disgruntled, do bad work. You spend a ton more money trying to get them out. You risk getting sued because everybody's angry about it at the time. Or we could say, "Hey, listen, you're 90 days in. It doesn't feel right. It's probably not right. Why don't we just like say it's not right and take this money?" And then, by the way, I save money, I save time. You figure out what's next for you. You go to a place where you can thrive. Like, no harm, no foul. People thought we were nuts for that, right? We were. By the way, when we rolled out that Princeton promise, $1,000, we had a girl get up and quit. She's like, "You're going to get me in trouble. Everyone's going to take the money." It's like, good. If you don't want that if you don't want that accountability, this is the right place for you. Same thing with the $5,000. Like there were times where like there were employees I was very confident were going to work out for us, and they would take the money, and it hurt. And by the way, you after some reflection, you're just like, man, thank God we have that, because I bet that person would have stayed here. I would have never even known they were unhappy. They were never going to
Yep.
tell me,
Yep.
right? And so they would have just done miserable work, and they would have sat in their corner trying not to get fired. And now we just said we got that person out, right? It's such a win, right? And so these are the little things that you can do that in a commodity space add up to a very different kind of company delivering a very different level of service.
I love that because all through that there's that theme of radical candor that you're very transparent. But I love your thoughts on this because I'm a big believer that what happens internally within an organization eventually plays out externally to the marketplace. And by having that opportunity to leave after 90 days and with a $5,000 bonus to get on your way, you actually end up getting good people who actually want to be there, which translates into the service you provide out to the marketplace, the experience you create for your customers, which therefore differentiates you against your competitors, particularly in a commodity space.
Yeah, I mean, and you use the word eventually right there, where it was like eventually what you do inside gets to the outside. I think immediately what you
Okay.
do on the inside gets to the outside. He- Here's what I'll say to people too, because I think sometimes people think I'm crazy. I'm like, either you believe in leadership or you don't. And it's like either you believe that George Washington was an exceptional military leader who found a way to win those battles, or you believe that anybody could have led that same group and won. I believe the leader not only matters, but like is the difference, right? And so, what does it mean to lead? It means you set that culture. What is culture? Culture is what you hire to, what you fire to, and what you promote to. It is not what you write on the wall. So
Yeah.
you write it on the wall and you don't follow it, that's not your culture. If you write it on the wall and then you're willing to fire somebody or hire somebody who follows them, or fire somebody who doesn't, or promote somebody who does and not promote somebody who doesn't, that's our culture, right? We are accountable to these things. That's your job as a leader. That in every interaction everybody in your company has with everybody in the outside every day, they are going to match the energy of that leader on day two.
Mm.
I mean, I guarantee you, you walk to two different companies, and the employees' attitudes on day two, based on who their manager is and what company they're in, will be radically different. On day two,
Yeah.
as human beings, we are so good at adapting to our environment. The question is, are people adapting up, or are they adapting down, or are they adapting sideways? And you need to create a culture that makes everybody adapt up right out of the gate. And so, and by the way, and we would have these conversations during the interview process, like, hey, we're a little crazy. What do you mean? Well, like, let me tell you, we're gonna offer you $5,000 to quit on day 90. We're gonna offer every client $1,000 if they're unhappy for any reason, no questions asked. If either you're attracted to our kind of crazy and you're like, I like that, or you're like, hey, I'm not sure. And by the way, if you're not sure, it means you're really not into it, and that's okay. But if you're, I only want the psychos who hear that and they're like, that's for me, right? Because when I heard it, when I met Rich and he suggested some of these things to me, I was like, that is my kind of psycho.
Yeah.
I want to be I don't, I'm not interested in my own comfort. I'm interested in figuring out how good I can be. And so if that's what you're into, then come be weird with us, you know?
And it's based on what you've said throughout this episode is constant and never-ending improvement. So how do we improve? How do we get better tomorrow? How do we never rest on our laurels and just assume we're going to be okay? Because companies that do that stay plateaued or they become irrelevant as you see companies go. So let's talk about because I'm conscious of time because it's getting late where you are. Let's talk about your company and how you go to market with your businesses. And do you use the same, I guess, the same principles when you're working with potential organizations to help them with their go-to-market strategy? That radical candor, that transparency, that becomes a very attractive force for them to see you as the I guess the organization they should be working with.
So yes, in terms of their interactions with me, right? And what I will not compromise in is I'm going to tell you what I think. It doesn't mean I'm right. Okay, but I tell you what I think. It doesn't mean I'm right. That's a really important thing to say too. Like I don't. Hey, the story. I'll tell somebody the story I'm telling myself, or based on my prior experience. Here's what I think. It doesn't mean I'm right. The data point. So how people respond to that tells me if they're going to be a good client for me to work with or not, which is either you're curious and think I might be right, you want to discover how I might be right, or you're very quick to defend yourself and you want to explain to me all the ways I'm wrong. And if that's our relationship, you will find somebody better to work with. Okay.
Yeah.
Because by the way, here's another thing too. I'm so annoying to work with in this way. Every time I meet with you, I will ask you, is there anything I could be doing better to make this a better experience for you? I obsessively ask. And not like in a way where I'm like hoping they say no, in a way where I'm begging them to tell me, like, hey, listen, if I offered you $100, could you find something I could be doing better right now to make this a better process for you? I want you're not going to hurt my feelings. You may hurt, actually, it may hurt a tiniest bit, but the reward for that is I get to be better. And
Yeah.
so I'm obsessively trying to get better. And so I want to work with people who are that way about it, right? So that in our relationship, and by the way, I've lost clients over this. I will be in the process with somebody, and they will reschedule a meeting with me 5 minutes after I'm supposed to start, and I literally will write this. I'll be like, listen, I don't. I know I'm risking the prospect of working with you, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. But the most successful CEOs I know never cancel a meeting 5 minutes after you're supposed to start, and if they do, it's because they have some sort of a health emergency or something's wrong with their family. I hope everything's okay, but otherwise, no, this is the last time that that's going to happen in our relationship or we can't work together. And I've had people be like, take days to respond to me and go, I didn't know how to take your email. It was really hard for me. At this time, I don't think it's right for us to work together. No problem. I dodged a bullet. I get
Yeah.
it. And I know I'm weird, right? But like that's how I'm not going to do that to you, right? I know I'm not. I don't something my power went out if I'm late for the meeting by 2 minutes, right? Like I value your time. That's the relationship that we have. I need to do the same way. And I get that you're busy. Everyone's busy, but your behavior is what you're committed to, right? I'm committed to never making you wait. And by the way, I want to set a tone in our relationship. Now, inside their organization or how they relate to their clients, I'm very adaptable, meaning that I'm not trying to change the
Mm,
culture in their organization during I am adapting what we do for their customers to their organization. So the first thing that we do is we interview all the key employees and we interview their key customers, and we put together a map of what they do well, what they don't do well, what the culture is, and we map all that stuff out. And then we develop messaging that is authentic to them and that will resonate with their ICP, right? Their
mm,
ideal customer profile. And so I do not come in and say, this is the right message for customers in your space. You need to adapt to this. It doesn't work. It will never work. So we make sure the message. So when we build their go to market process, it is very important that they feel every day like it's theirs. And so it has to mirror what is authentically them. So in our relationship, I do some dictation because I don't think it works otherwise. There are a
mm.
lot of CEOs that have no problem writing me a big check with no intention of ever working with me to actually get the thing done. I can't explain it to you, but like if they're like, I need to go to market process, and I'm like, number one rule, we meet every week for 45 minutes to go over this stuff because you're the leader, and if you don't lead, nothing else I do matters.
Yeah,
Yes, Mark, I understand. Week two, hey, I got to cancel the meeting. Cool. Just so you know, you're paying me no matter. You're gonna pay me no matter what now, and it's not gonna work if you do this again. That's it. And then they choose. And most people do come around to the tone I set, but some don't. But within their organization and their culture, I very much am happy to adapt because I believe that is the only way it can work. And by the way, I am smart enough and I have seen a lot of cultures that if you read it in a book, you would tell you that they're doing it wrong. Or to me, it seems like very not what I would want to be a part of. But by the way, it works. They're profitable. They run a great business. That people are happy enough at work. And so like there's not one way to skin the cat. It doesn't have to be my way at all
yeah.
inside their organization. It just has to be, a respectful relationship for us because I do know that I'm not effective as a consultant if we don't have some ground rules in place from the beginning.
And I think, well, I mean, out of this conversation, what I get from you is you are authentic, you are consistent, you are driven, and you're very, very focused on delivering the best possible outcome for the organizations and the leaders and the founders that you're working with, right? So, but you need them to actually reciprocate that and actually show you that yes, they are also really focused and really dedicated and really dialed in on creating the best experience they can for their customers. Otherwise, why they work with you?
I mean, it's very much self-preservation. Failure drives me crazy. I do not have as much control in this scenario as I would if it was my company. And so I'm trying to protect myself from the ego death of spending 4 months working with you and taking your money and not delivering the results that we talked about in the beginning. And so I'm just trying to create an environment that allows me to deliver on the things that we set out as a goal from the beginning. And one thing that's like really just this is not a decision I ever made. It's just how it is. Once I know what your goals are, I am obsessed with helping you
Mm,
reach them. And it will really ruin my mood if I want you to achieve your goals more than you want you to achieve your goals. Like that's just not a relationship I want to be a part of. And you've had that experience before, right? Where someone will be like, I want to. I had a woman who worked for me once. She's like, I want to be the COO of a company one day. I'd be like, great. And then I'd be like, well, listen, I know it's it's optional, work from home, work remote type situation, but you don't have the experience to work remote and become that person. So you got to come to the office every day and learn from the people that are here. And she'd be like, yeah, but my dog gets lonely. And I'm like, cool. You're never going to be the COO of a company. No shade, right? But like, your work is not commensurate with what you tell me your goals are, right? And so I
yeah,
don't like to be in that. Then I have to give up on your goals, and I tell you like I'm no longer invested in helping you achieve that because you're no longer invested in helping
that's
you
it.
achieve that, right? So again, I'm probably sound like a crazy person and like I demand all this stuff from my clients. The reality is I think for the vast majority of people who actually hire me, they find it to be an incredibly enjoyable experience. We set expectations up front. They get it. All you have to do is do what you say you're going to do. I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, and then it's really just it. And there's usually almost no drama. I'm pointing out the few times that it gets weird just because I think it proves the point.
But it's real, it's authentic, and it's consistent, right? So you don't, and you're not pretending to be somebody that you're not, and you're very, very clear on who you're going to resonate with, that who you can help, and that's for anybody that's in sales needs to get really clear on. You can't be all things to all people, so you will resonate with some and you won't resonate with others, and that's okay.
Yes, the all things to all people thing is funny. I just had I'm in the process of onboarding a new client, and this person is a dreamer. I know we got to go, but I'll just share the story. This person's a dreamer, and he's like, this product could be used by people, used by institutions. It's gonna be used by everybody. Everybody can be on this. I'm like, cool. So what you're telling me when I get to this website is that there's nothing special about this for me. It's for everybody, and so I'm going to leave and not buy your product. And I said, I try to walk him through it. I go, hey, Facebook is for everybody. I go, but it wasn't when they started. When they started, it was for just kids at Harvard. And then it was just kids at this school. And then it was just college kids. And then once you nail that messaging and make those people feel special, you can roll it out to the masses and do more and more and more. So when you're rolling out your product, it can't be for everybody. The more narrow your niche and your ICP, the better you're going to be able to target those people, make them feel special when they come to your website. So they'll be like, oh, it's a miracle. I found this company that's specifically for me.
Yeah,
And that's the feeling you want to deliver to your customers, when you're leading a go-to-market approach. And so, yes, just for me, I can't be for everybody. For you, you can't be for everybody. And so might as well find out up front if we're the right match and we should spend this time together. Right, for sure.
100%, 100%, fantastic. And look, hey mate, this has been a phenomenal conversation. I've learnt so much from the stories and the principles you've shared. So thank you. So for people who want to know more about you and also go to market solution integrated go to market solutions, where can they find you and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, the website's very simple. It's igtms.com, integrated go-to-market solutions, igtms.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Mark Douglas Gordon. My middle name is Douglas. You can find me on Instagram at Mark D. Gordon. But if you just Google integrated go-to-market solutions or Mark Gordon, former mortgage guy, all those things will pop right up and you can find me. And by the way, you'll find that my cell phone number is in my LinkedIn. It's there for a reason. If you don't like to wait or you don't want to fill out a form, call me. I love meeting people, especially people that think that I might be able to help them. And so if there's anything that your audience needs and they're interested, they certainly should reach out.
Love it. Thanks, mate. I'll put that in the show notes. I don't understand why people don't put their mobile phone number on their or cell phone on their LinkedIn profile. I mean, I've got mine there, but it's just crazy.
Yes, I would like people to be able to find me if they want to.
That's it. That's
That's
it.
part of the job. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So
So, mate, hey,
yeah,
I greatly appreciate it. I know it's quite late there in Charleston, so I do appreciate you staying up and been a phenomenal conversation. So, thank you for being a guest on the Exceptional Sales Letter podcast.
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Cheers, mate. Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Letter podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.